Hey, how's it going out there?
Powered
Hope
by
you guys are doing
Riverside
well.
FM.
So today I was wanting to kind of keep in line with the recent things I've been talking about with Marvel, and the one project that Marvel, for some reason, has not been able to get together and actually make as a film is Blade. And it's actually kind of funny because Blade has been announced. It's been announced and postponed. Hell, I don't know how many times. It was supposed to have come out last year, supposed to come out this year, and I think at this point we've had like three different release dates, and then at this point it's just been completely taken off the slate for Marvel, and really there's no idea of when or if we're going to get another Blade movie. But I don't know, considering how I feel Blade is one of the more simple projects you could make. I mean, and you look at all the other things they've made recently, from like Ironheart, Fantastic Four. Yeah, I mean, some of them are not the most overly complicated projects, but I mean, the fact that those have gotten made before Blade and that we're still just kind of in this limbo for Blade is just kind of crazy because the blueprint's there. I mean, it's about a guy who hunts vampires, and that's it. Like the premise of Blade is simple, the character of Blade is simple. I mean, not to say that there's no depth or complexity to the character, but this isn't a hard concept to nail. Like I don't get why this is such a challenge for Marvel, especially when you've seen all the other stuff they've made recently. Like they were able to somehow make a Deadpool movie, a Deadpool Wolverine multiverse movie. They were able to make a Fantastic Four movie. They've been able to make an Ironheart TV show. They were able to make Black Panther 2. And then now they're going to be making Doomsday and Secret Wars back to back. And then somehow in all of that, Blade is just that one project that they just can't get. Not even not that they can make. It's just they can't even get it together because this project has gone through multiple directors. It's lost half of its cast, and Marshall Ali, the one who's going to be playing Blade, he's just kind of in limbo. Like he's the only time I think he has shown up in the MCU as Blade was in a post-credit scene for the Eternals, and it wasn't even him. It was like he was on a phone or something, and that was it. And other than that, we have not seen Ali as Blade, and we're probably not going to see him as Blade for probably, honestly, if ever. Now that I'm thinking about it, because at this point, Ali, I don't know how old he is. He's probably mid 40s. I mean, he has to be at least 40s. So I mean, he's if this project takes another 3 or 4 years, he's going to be in his 50s. And so by the time they're talking about making multiple Blade movies, I mean, Ali might be pushing into his like late or early 60s at that point. And when at that point, you might as well recast him. So they're getting kind of close to where they might as well just completely reset this project from scratch and make it an entirely new thing. Like just completely clean the slate, get rid of Ali, get rid of any whoever is on this mix mash skeleton crew of a project. Just completely get rid of all of them. Just do a full reset and clean the slate, and then just start from scratch. Because the thing I will say is that with the new Fantastic Four movie, that takes place in its own universe. That doesn't have anything to do with the main MCU. It has nothing to do with the grand, the greater MCU. That's what they could do. Like they have options. Like if it's the concern of trying to fit him into the main MCU, well, they don't have to worry about that because the Fantastic Four aren't even in the main MCU, and they're going to eventually cross over with them. So you could easily have it where he comes from an alternate Earth where he's a daywalker, and maybe the Avengers or whoever else don't exist in that world, and he just hunts vampires, and you could have Dracula or whoever be the main bad guy, and go from there. But I do think that there is a lot of value in having Blade in the MCU. I mean, especially since the original Blade trilogy is so iconic and in part kind of helped launch the MCU to what it is now, or not now, what it was at its peak with Endgame, Infinity War, and so on. And so, the character is pretty valuable to Marvel and to the MCU. And so I want to see him at some point be introduced into the series. I just don't want them to do it in in a bad way, which it seems like we've gotten close to having some kind of bad versions of this character or this story being introduced because apparently Kevin Feige revealed that there were four versions of the Blade film that were on the table, and in two, I think one or multiple of them were set like in not ancient times, but kind of like Sinners. They were set like in the 30s, 20s, 40s. And then the version that Kevin Feige says that they're currently focused on is in the modern day. And that's the one they're kind of building from. And I mean, honestly, Blade can work in either, and that's kind of the thing with Blade is that you can do pretty much anything with him. Like he's not deadlocked into a certain period, into a certain genre, into a certain type of film. You can make any type of film in any type of setting and any type of alternate reality. It's endless. That's what's so kind of just confusing about this too is the options are limitless. Like it's not like Blade is a character that you can only do certain things with, and that he just doesn't work if you take him outside of certain type of situations or certain type of events, or if he's not in certain time periods. It doesn't work. Like Blade is pretty interchangeable. Like you could have him be in the 1800s, the 1700s, the 2010s. Any time period, any setting can work for Blade. Uh, so it's you have like a lot of free reign to do whatever you want to, but to go back to Sinners, what's kind of funny is Sinners in a way kind of connects to Blade because some of the costumes that they use in Sinners were actually from the wardrobe that were going to be used for the Blade film. So Marvel sold the production team on Sinners the costumes that they were going to use for Blade. So they were far enough into production with one version, which was one of the versions that was going to be taking place in the 30s and 40s. Funny enough, the same time period that Sinners takes place in is the same exact setting, or roughly about that the Blade movie is going to take place in, which is why they were able to use the wardrobe and it fit perfectly because they were going to be set in the same time period, in the same time period. And so it was one version was far enough into production that they were able to have a wardrobe made. And on top of that, another funny connection between Sinners and Blade is that I believe his name is Delroy Jenkins. I'm sure I'm butchering it. It's the older guy. He was actually going to be attached to the film. He was actually one of the main cast members, and then he left. And they asked him what happened with Blade, and he pretty much was like, "Yeah, it was just a fucking disaster. Like nobody knew what they were doing. There was no idea of what we were going to be doing, and so it just fell apart." And so he left. So it's kind of funny how someone who's connected or who was attached to the Blade film was in Sinners, which is a vampire film set in the 30s, which is what the one of the versions of Blade was. And so now we're kind of back to square one, where at this point there's not even like there's the talk of there being a Blade film, and Kevin Feige has said that they are interested in making it and they're going to make it, but there's no like plans really. I mean, uh, there's no set date, there's no release date, and then on top of that, I don't even know who the director is now because they've went through two of them. They've lost half the cast. I think Maya Goff was actually going to be part of one version. I don't know if she's still attached to it. She might not be. And then I don't. And then like Delroy, he was part of the cast, and then it seems like he's kind of left. And it seems like really Ali is the only core cast member still attached to this that is still there. Everyone else has been replaced, left, or whatever. And so it also kind of leaves it in a weird situation where they're gonna have to pretty much like add a whole new cast of characters and pretty much fill in the cast again that they've lost. But as far as like where would Blade or how could Blade fit into the MCU, I think well, and this is my theory. I think that they might be waiting intentionally until after Secret Wars because it seems like Marvel is going to do some type of complete reboot of the MCU. Like Kevin Feige has talked about that recently of the MCU doing like a factory reset where they're just going to start from scratch, reset everything after Secret Wars, and go from there. And honestly, if that's the plan, if the plan is for them to just reset the MCU from like scratch and then start from there, I think that might be the best point to actually have Blade introduced. Because if you introduce Blade at this point, I mean, he's just going to be lost in the mix. There's so much shit they got going on between Doomsday, between Secret Wars, between the TV shows, between everything they got going on. Having Blade in there right now, he'd just be lost in the mix. He'd just be one of a fucking endless list of characters that are in the MCU that probably won't be seen again. A one and done, or might show up, 5 years from now. So I think it might be a good thing that they've actually not been able to get a Blade film made yet, just because I don't know how much mileage that they would actually get out of a Blade character right now. Like, I don't think with how the track record of the MCU has been, especially with how they have just been making so many new characters, like the amount of characters that they have introduced in post credit scenes and shows and movies that like most of them we either haven't seen again or are just kind of forgotten about, whether it's Hercules at the end of Thor: Love and Thunder, Arishem at the end of the Eternals, or Pip the Troll and Star Fox from the end of the Eternals, or Shang Chi or America Chavez or Moon Knight. Like, there's so many characters that they have introduced and have done nothing with or have forgotten about, and I feel like Blade probably would have been part of that, where he might have showed up for his film and then just never been shown up again. But since he's probably not going to be appearing in the current MCU era, I think that there is a lot of potential to have him with a few different characters. The one character that I think he would be a really good match with is Moon Knight. I think that there are there's a lot of things you could do with that, because I forget the name of the team, because they are a team. I think it's the Midnight Suns in the comics, where it's Moon Knight, I think it's Ghost Rider, it's Blade, and there's a few other characters. And now we haven't gotten Ghost Rider yet. And honestly, I don't even know if we're ever. I don't know if we're ever. I don't want to say ever going to get a Ghost Rider film or character, but it doesn't seem to be something that Marvel is really interested in. Like, that's one character that you really don't hear Marvel talking about or Kevin Feige talking about, because there are characters that Kevin Feige or Marvel will like talk about wanting to introduce or that they're planning to introduce. And as far as I've ever heard, I've never seen them ever really talk about wanting to have like a Ghost Rider character, or like being really interested in having him in. So Ghost Rider might not show up, but there's plenty of other characters they could use. But I think it'd be cool if you had Blade of like kind of like a Midnight Suns type of group, where he is like kind of like a street level slash fantasy character, where he does like mostly street level, vigilante work, or he just stays on the ground and fights vampires and fights demons, and then he can like cross over, and deal with the more mythical threats. I mean, you could even have him team up with Doctor Strange. I mean, that could kind of work. I could see him teaming up with Doctor Strange. I could see him having something to do with like Scarlet Witch. I could see him having something to do with a few of the other Avengers. Like, there's a lot of potential for crossing over of other characters and different stories. I mean, you could do like an underworld story with him. And also, depending on what the backstory for Blade is, you could also play on that. And also, a character I think that you could really have a lot of interesting interactions with and kind of be like a main antagonist is Mephisto. Because Mephisto got introduced in Ironheart. And I mean, once again, I mean, this is Marvel introducing another character who should be a major character, but realistically, when and where he'll show up again is to be determined. Probably Marvel doesn't even know. So, and then also, like, this is also kind of weird, because it seems like they want to keep Sacha Baron Cohen as Mephisto, but then they're also talking about rebooting the MCU. So I don't know if he just will stay as Mephisto, like he's going to be one of the like one of the actors that stays as his character. But assuming that Mephisto is still in the MCU as he is now, post reset or post reboot, assuming it happens, I think that you could have a lot of conflict with him and Blade. I mean, there's definitely a lot you could do there. And like I mentioned earlier, I mean, you could introduce, the MCU's own version of Dracula, which could be I mean, not like a major villain for like the Avengers, but like a pretty major threat at least for Blade to have to deal with. That'd be kind of cool. I mean, because we really haven't delved into. I mean, we've dealt with like magic and technology, but as far as like dealing with like werewolves, vampires, I can think of, we really haven't. They really haven't done that. I mean, there was that one show. Was it a show? I think it was a show. It was the show with Oh God, what's his name? Swamp Thing? Not Swamp Thing. Was it? It's not Swamp Thing. It's damn, I am blanking on his name. It was a black. It was shot in black and white, and it was like a Halloween special. Um, I can't think of his name right now, but it was it kind of reminds me of like Swamp Thing. I think it was Man Thing or something like that. That show. I think that that would be kind of like a cool, like those characters would be kind of cool to have as like a crossover uh with Blade. That would be kind of cool. Yeah, so like there are a lot of options that you could do with him, assuming that they actually utilize him. Because I feel like if they're going to like do a reset, that Blade should be one of the main characters. Like maybe I'm not saying he has to be like the core like Tony Stark was, but he should be a pretty central character in it. And like him with like a core cast of characters like Spider Man, Doctor Strange, that would work. That'd be pretty cool. But yeah, it's as of right now, it's just kind of up in the air and just kind of anyone's guess like what's going to happen with Blade. But I feel like Blade, he's just been dealt a bad hand because not only has his movie just not been able to be made, his own fucking game has been delayed. So not only has his movies not been able to get, made, but then his own game has been delayed. So it's just like Blade can't catch a break. I mean, the only thing Blade has been in recently is Marvel Rivals. Like that's the only thing he's actually been able to show up in and actually do something. Like because his game's been not canceled, but it's been delayed. His movie's been pretty much all but canceled slash delayed, probably completely overhauled. So Blade has not had the best string of luck lately with any of his projects actually manifesting in anything. But yeah, I'll be curious to see what they do with Blade and when and if he shows up. But with that said, I think I'm gonna call it a day here, and I will see you good people later.